Hey everyone, this is Lindsay live from IMEX America. We're getting towards the end of our day, but man, we've been saving some of the best content for you as you've been tuning in, going towards the rest of your day. With me, I have Martin Sirk, who's been joining us, and he's been rather a busy bee. Martin, tell us what you've been out there doing here on the trade show floor.
Well, it's actually not on the trade show floor because I'm not exhibiting, so a lot of my meetings are actually around and in spare meeting rooms, down corridors, in dusty alleys. Basically, this is just a place where everybody is, and so you just take advantage and you have your meetings. For a while, I had an office in the Café Presse, where I took very
They have excellent coffee.
They have
over
excellent
there.
coffee there. But one of the coolest things I did yesterday is actually run a 1-hour session for the Future Leaders Forum, which is the initiative for students here at IMEX, which is really great. And a lot of us grizzled elders like to volunteer and check out what young people look like these days. And so I ran a session which I billed as the Big F.
Oh.
Learning from failure.
Oh, failure's tough. That's a big topic.
Yeah, and I did this a year ago as an experiment, and it went down so well. I did it again, and so it's lots of exercises. First of all, first of all, I rearranged the entire room because, of course, all the students are sitting with their mates. You know, this college is sitting together, the Belgians are sitting together, the Italians, of course, are sitting together.
Listen to the
and
judge.
So I've essentially forced them to sit with people who are not from the same college, not from the same country, and the right number on the table. On the table. So logistics to begin with, but then I humiliate myself by talking about some of the massive failures I've had in my own life, like spending 2 years trying to get the dream job and then being told that I was number 5 and there were 4 places, and how I lost $2 million for Hilton on the opening of the Hilton London Metropole.
Oh my goodness.
And other little small things like that.
Just stuff. But
Yeah.
you know, from a vulnerability perspective, I mean, the simple fact that you broke the clicks up, aside from the fact that I like your meeting design, you know, that really does place you in a place where you're talking to a perfect stranger and not only having to talk to a perfect stranger, but bare your soul about how you lost $2 million for Hilton.
That's just the intro. That's just to set the scene. But then we put them into groups of 4. They have to listen to the other 3 stories. We then put them in. I make them close their eyes and spend 3 minutes thinking about what they heard and how it applies to their own situation.
Right.
Then we get them talking to another person they've never met before to explain what they learned from the other 3 and how it applies to them. Then we get them to write down action points that they're going to follow and get the other person to back them up, and then contact them on Halloween night.
So accountability groups.
Accountability
Martin,
groups.
I love that.
But then at the very end, I ask them what they think the whole session's been about. And we get the usual things that, I shouldn't be too vulnerable, I shouldn't be too nervous, there's really positive things that come from outcomes, etc. All that usual stuff. And I tell them that I've actually fooled them. It's a big con because the whole hour is an experiential deep dive into concepts of meeting design.
That's true.
That's the whole purpose of it. And so I then give them the list of 20 different concepts that they have now experienced, which I'll send them later because there's no time to take it down, because we cram all this into 60 minutes.
That's what I'm just thinking of. How did you have all these deep conversations in 60 minutes? Do you have a pacing and have been, going out and practicing this at other places? Is this the first time?
No, well, I've done this before, but it's not difficult. I mean, you just need to time it, and I'm not actually talking for long because they're doing the work.
Yes.
But it illustrates things like how do you get the flow of an hour to go so that you never lose the energy. So part of the time they're sitting down, so part of the time they're on their own, part of the time they're standing and talking in pairs. You're moving them around the room. You're teaching them about networking, about forced networking that is not unpleasant. You talk about retention of knowledge. You talk about embedding knowledge. You talk about calls to action. You talk about setting personal objectives. All of those things you can teach them in that 1 hour. Because I invented it because I thought, how the hell can I put something together about meeting design which is not going to bore the pants off them, frankly.
No, I mean, but that's absolutely true, because when you hear the phrase, we have 20 concepts that we want you to learn, all of a sudden you're like, that feels like a lot, and especially in 60 minutes. So I love the experiential element of it. And when you were thinking of ways to create that experiential element, were you just observing other people, or was it something like, I myself enjoy this?
I am a self-confessed meeting design nerd.
Oh.
Yeah. I belong to a little group well, I say I belong to. I've been to meetings. It's a meeting design practicum.
Yes,
where
with
about
Martin,
25
the other Martin.
Martin Vanessa.
Yes.
Yeah, Martin's one of those. But yeah, so he comes from the tech background.
Right.
You've got others who, like Elling Hamso,
Yes.
who comes from the ROI background.
Yes.
You've got people from theatre, from psychology, from communication agencies. But the one thing they all have in common is they love to mix it up with meetings, and they want to
Absolutely.
understand how meetings really work.
Mm-hmm.
So you put all those 25 people together, and we spend 2 or 2.5 days, and each of us has to put forward an experimental session,
Oh.
which then a group decides what makes it onto the program. And then you have to run it and get the feedback on how it works. So we're constantly playing with different formats, and cooking our own meals and standing around bonfires and God knows what else.
So is this the Fresh Conference or the meeting design when they run in the spring?
This is the small meeting design practicum.
Oh, goodness
Invitation
gracious.
only.
Invitation only. Well, no, it's funny because when we were in IMEX Frankfurt, Martin and his team came on, and every day we were treated to a little bit different element of the Meeting Design Institute.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing to me the research and the findings they're having come out from there. And I love that this experimental session idea.
Mm-hmm.
Because so many of us do use committees to create a program, but we aren't really treating it as an experiment. We're just accepting it that it's going to work. And then when the attendees give us feedback, I don't know that we try to fix it or help it improve.
You know, in many ways, we are a terribly conservative industry. I used to give the analogy that we're one of those industries where some of the meetings we go to are like this. You know, they're like an iPhone. And other meetings we go to are like the thing you carry over your shoulder and weighs 2 tons and only has battery life for 30 minutes. You know, but somehow we accept in this day and age that that's all acceptable. And I always feel that when you've been to a really, really cleverly well-designed meeting that takes into account the needs of all the delegates, the objectives, that's very focused, creative, innovative, you don't want to go back. Mm-hmm. There's a ratchet effect. So the more that we can expose delegates to really effective, fantastically well-designed meetings, the better our whole industry will be.
Yes, and I also liked the incredibly sneaky way with this session for the young leaders. You were saying failure's not a bad thing because failure is a outcome of risk sometimes. And in addition to our conservative natures, we are scared as all get out of risk.
Almost nobody evaluates their successes.
Right.
Failure is actually much more fun and much more interesting because you have to really start driving down and saying, why did this not work?
Right.
Whereas if an event is successful, everybody's hooray, same again next year. So it stimulates a lot more creative thinking, I think. And we you know, the example I gave at the intro to these students was most businesses fail. Most bids to win a congress fail.
Right.
They're not accepted. And most people don't even get to the interview stage of getting a job. So the world, even though we're told now on our social media feeds and our LinkedIn profiles and everything we do that success is the be-all and end-all, the reality of the world we're in is that we are swimming through multiple failures. Mm-hmm. And so learning from that is a really critical skill. If you can't do that, you will sink without trace.
That's very true. So what is it that you do when you aren't doing this?
Right. So a year ago, I left ICA, the International Congress and Convention Association, which I'd been the CEO of 16 years. And so I'm now running my own consultancy called Sirk Serendipity, which happens to be my favorite word in the English language. And also what the meetings business is actually all about or should be about.
Right.
Serendipitous encounters.
Yeah.
Serendipity is something that cannot be automated away. It can't be taken over by AI, by robotics. It's what makes meetings unique.
Yes.
I'm working for the Global Association Hub Partnership, which is a consortium of Brussels, Dubai, Singapore, and Washington, D.C., helping associations develop their global programs. Not meetings, but their other general development goals.
I love
that's
that.
one. I'm working with the International Association for the Study of Pain, helping them build relations with European healthcare associations. Tech startup called Cubify, which is all about more intelligent, informed e-posters, roundtables, and general discussions at meetings. So there's a general theme here. You know, it's about smart cities. It's about smart meetings. I'm doing work with IMEX on their policy forum.
Nice.
So it's a really nice portfolio
Retirement plan.
of nice clients, intellectually stimulating projects. And I'm having an absolute ball, actually.
Oh, that's good. You can just see the joy that comes off of him to talk about it. Well, Martin, this was a delight. Thank you again for joining us today and sharing with us that failure is not an F word. We've got more great content as we're going to be wrapping up IMEX. Where can they find you? What is your website?
I'm one of those people who deliberately decided not to actually have a website.
Ooh.
You can find me, though, in great detail on LinkedIn.
Oh, all right. So look for Martin Sirk on LinkedIn. We'll be back in a flash with more great stuff here in Vegas.